Region 10 Patrol and Rescue. And I will be fairly brief. I don't have a PowerPoint, so I'm not going to make it too interesting to read. Apologies, I was going to do a PowerPoint. Every year I just try and hit on a few things that have struck our interest over the past year. And I kind of have a not congruous group of them this time. First of all, first and foremost, I need all of you to talk to your peers. This is obviously not full contingency of Region 10. There are a lot of people out there racing, but there's not that many that showed up to our safety thing today. And we need everybody to be more aware of safety. All of you know about the insurance problems we've had over the last couple of years. That all falls back on incidents that have occurred and how we treat safety. And quite frankly, we're doing a very good job in Region 10 relative to other regions, thinking about safety, being safety-minded, making it just a simple habit, just simple how you do business, and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be anything that you got to do to step outside of your normal procedures and go do something and come back. It should just be a part of your everyday thing. Think about when you hop into your car, you buckle up your seatbelt without thinking twice about it. When I was a little kid, I used to sit all the way in the very back of my mom's station wagon so that I could slide on my butt back and forth when she went around corners. No one thought a thing about it. It's a different world, and if you just make this thing a habit, you don't even notice it's there, and it's done amazing things for Region 10. We are, by far and away, the best region as far as these sorts of things go. But we have new racers, we have old racers that have habits that don't, that die hard, and we really need you guys, for what you're thinking about and learning here today, to talk to your peers. Over a beer, when you're building boats, at the race site, what have you, don't be afraid to question them about a few things. Hey, did you guys forget your fire extinguisher on the trailer? Yeah, we don't burn things in the pits very often, but the insurance people show up sometimes. They love to see that sort of thing. They love to come to Region 10 because they walk around, they watch some races, and they don't really have anything to hit us about. They hit us tiny, minuscule little things. That's fantastic because it means we're doing all the important things correct. So please help encourage safety as an everyday thing with all your peers. It doesn't take that long. Starting kind of from the outside and working our way in, boats. Those of you who are building, buying boats, or talking to people that are, I heard a little bit of talk last year. I heard guys talking about the benefits of a tearaway lid. And I was really rather surprised. And I heard Mr. Warringer talk about this in the past, and I'd never heard the conversation before, and I thought he must have got that out of somewhere very obscure, but I actually heard some drivers talking about it not too long ago. And let me give you something to think about. If the lid tears away in an accident, you never had one in the first place. And while they do contribute to the aerodynamics, the whole point of having that lid was the safety rule that says we want you in a capsule because we're trying to protect you from impact. We're not trying to improve your aerodynamics. That's all up to you. The safety rules are there to protect you from impact. And if the lid comes away in an accident, it's the first thing that's going to happen, and then the water's going to hit you. And your neck is far more delicate than you think. Okay? This boat over here is not going to change significantly if you put on a lid on it that comes off when it flips over. So, if you hear that conversation come up, please don't just giggle and walk away and ignore him or what have you. Put the thought into his head and at least engage in the conversation. You don't need to get in a big argument about it. There's some people that it's hard to change the way they think, but it doesn't hurt. It certainly doesn't hurt to try and help steer folks into a safer condition. Air tanks. We really, really want you to leave the dock first thing in the morning with a full air tank. And I really like seeing 30 cubic foot tanks in boats. I honestly didn't know that you can use these tiny, tiny little tanks. And it generally does meet the rules. But you got to ask yourself, if I'm going to run 3 or 4 heats today, and I'm probably going to breathe a little more frequently than I do when I'm sitting in a chair because I'm one-sided and it's kind of hard to muscle some of these boats around. Then it goes upside down and I'm breathing a little fast because I'm a little excited. Am I going to run out of air? Tiny tanks are cute, the less weight in your boat, but folks, in this case, size matters. Okay? If you got 2,000 pounds there, you think, oh, that's okay. I've got so far to run, I can make it. It's not like a gas tank. You run out of gas, you're upset for the rest of the day. If you're upside down in your boat, the water's starting to fill the cockpit and you run out of air, that's a much worse condition. So please, full tanks and please, 30 cubic footers. I would really appreciate that. It would make me feel better. Straps. Your straps all fit you when you're driving your boat. Those of you guys are tied up in your capsule. But if someone else drives your boat, or if you were invited to drive somebody else's boat, one of the first things I would like you to do is hop in that boat or have your guest driver hop in your boat and see that it fits them. We have some really petite drivers running around these days. Literally, one of them has a hard time reaching the top of the canopy to push the thing open because she's very petite. You probably know who I'm talking about. The boat needs to fit you if you're going to operate it. You need to be able to see over the dash. You need to be able to get tight in your straps so that you're secure in the boat. And if not, if the first thing you do is go check this out, you can make adjustments. Maybe to the straps, maybe to the seat. A lot of F1 cars have multiple drivers, and they just have multiple seat inserts they drop in to make the car fit them. It's kind of hard to make your driver fit your car. But if you do these things, you'll actually have a better driving experience in that boat because you'll be more comfortable in the boat. You need to be one with the boat. You know this. Allows you to leverage on your steering wheel better. You don't get rattled around as much. You don't walk away with cruises. Other people's boats are different than yours. The first thing to familiarize yourself with it should be the first option you get to get in it. Make sure that it fits you. Air systems. Pat Gleason already talked about this, but I'm going to repeat a little bit because redundancy here I think is a good thing. Please test your air systems. It's been very common over the last 2 years that people have shown up with a borrowed air system. And if you intend to drive in that air system, that's okay. Because that air system, as he said, it's kind of tough sometimes to make it fit your face. They only have a certain number of mask sizes, but everyone's face is different. And if you change your air system, if you repair your air system, if you borrow an air system, please test it out before you go out. And it's not just a matter of put it on your face and say, oh yeah, I'm breathing. You know, stick your head away. See if you can breathe when you're upside down. What a lot of people don't realize about those air masks is when they do leak, if you're upside in a boat and you have a very small leak, they're very tight fit on your face. Ooh, that got loud. Very tight fit on your face. And when you're upside down, the water leaks, goes right up here, and you get like a teaspoon or so, and it starts running up into your sinuses. A teaspoon, tablespoon perhaps. And it's very uncomfortable. And you don't have a lot of time left when you're snorting up water. It's extremely uncomfortable. It's extremely distracting when you're trying to get out of the boat. Guys in large air helmets, like Pat said, if they get a little bit of a leak, it doesn't really affect them that much. They still get out, but you know they're leaking because their hair is wet. Guys who have masks on, they get a little leak, and you see them all of a sudden getting a great big hurry, and they're pounding on the wind because they don't like you. They're holding their breath because they don't like having air up their sinuses. So test your air systems. Last one on my list, and I'm going to start ranking on this just a little bit less because I'm seeing more and more of it, is flotation. You're responsible to do your own math to make sure you have enough flotation in your boat. I've seen guys tell me that flotation is unnecessary weight. I'm going to get tossed free anyway. I've got an air pocket. I've got an inner tube. None of these are really acceptable. And does your life insurance cover you while you're boat racing? I don't know. But flotation is incredibly important. Even if you are tossed free, even if you do get out before your boat sinks, you really want your boat on the bottom of the lake. You wreck your boat, we don't care about your boat. We're going to pull you out. We're going to take you to the beach, and if it happens to sink, it sinks. And it's a lot better off. It's a lot easier to get back. It slows down our racing schedule a lot less if we can just hook a rope to it and drag it back to the crane, and they can put it back on the trailer for you. If it goes to the bottom, it's most likely going to sit there at the end of the day. It's going to hit the bottom. Who knows what's down there? And we're going to have to drag it back up to the surface and back to wherever it goes. It's going to be down there for a while. If we have some sort of issue with your fuel tank or a rupture that's leaking oil or fuel, think about insurance in that respect. Think about the EPA. Think about the Coast Guard, which actually comes out and runs perimeter patrol for us for some of our events. It won't go over well. If your boat's floating, we can get it back to the crane and out of the water and stop that situation very quickly. And it's less damage to your boat, and it's less likely to take you down with it. So, Those are my list of complaints and things for today. I'm going to talk a little bit about capsule training. It's been going really well so far. We've done 2 sessions. We have 2 more sessions to go. Keep in mind, if you show up and your equipment doesn't work right, not that big a deal. Get it fixed. Either fix it on site, take it away and fix it, or we'll run you through the next capsule session without charge. If you're really certain that everything's perfect, you can go ahead and show up at the last capsule session. But I recommend you train earlier, because if something goes wrong or doesn't work right, you get another shot at it. We're going to have a total of 4 capsule training sessions. We've got 2 left. And if you miss those, it's pretty hard to set up a capsule training session just for one person. It's a pain in the butt. You have to have a pool. We are a lot more limited on the pools we can use now thanks to our new insurance company. The pool itself has to have like a $5 million policy on it to back up our insurance policy. So it's a little more challenging. So please, we've got 2 sessions left. One at Hazen High School in Renton, and we have one at the Fife pool, the city pool in Fife. And what's that? Dates? I sent the dates out to the clubs. What are they, Jan?
No, I don't have them.
I don't want
Hazen one is the 16th of March.
The other one is April 12th or something.
Yeah, I don't want to misspeak. I didn't bring the dates with me because they did go out to all the clubs. If you didn't get it,
I'll
check
send
your
it
email.
out. I'll send it out again.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, so it should be in the emails you get from the clubs, but definitely show up. And as someone mentioned earlier, some of you guys are coming out annually, and that's a good thing. I don't mind doing that at all. We'll test you whenever you want. It's a good thing for proficiency. We frequently run rookies through twice. We had one rookie go through 3 times just because they wanted to get through it while being more calm. They got out the first time okay, they got this out the second time a little better, but they just wanted to try the 3rd time so they could go through the full process without being excited. And I think that's a really good thing. And I hope the rest of them take that seriously. But back to the talk, one thing that I'm really, really passionate about is I want you guys to talk to your peers. You guys obviously take this seriously because you probably show up today and take burn up one of your Saturdays to think about this sort of stuff. Nobody likes going to memorial ceremonies because we lost someone due to racing, and I'd like to keep it that way. So, please, if you would, talk to your peers, impress this upon them. APBA's had a lot of insurance issues over the last couple of years, and Region 10 currently is the standout. Even though we've had incidents, we are looked at a lot more kindly by our insurance company because we're doing all the right things. And that's thanks to all of you guys, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, can you just have Pat kind of go over the little pill that goes in the masks? Obviously, I didn't realize that mine would get used up when I did my training.
Oh, the automatic type?
Aqua pill with the ambient air. Yeah, what Bob's talking about is that the air masks, the most recent ones that SRP has made for a number of years, have an ambient air valve in them, which allows the driver to open up that valve and breathe off of the ambient air in the cockpit so he's not pulling on his oxygen bottle all the time. Inside that ambient valve is what we call an aqua pill. It's actually, it's a little sponge attached to a plastic disc. The closest thing I can compare it to is when you were a kid and you used to get the little capsules in colors and you drop them in the water and they pop open, they turn into animals. It's kind of like that. It's a little sponge that when it gets wet, it inflates and it closes off the holes in the ambient air valve, so that, you know, the end effect being if you're in the water, if you're driving the boat, you've got your ambient valve open and you go over and that valve gets wet, it's going to close off the valve and put you on 100% air, so you have all the air going in your tank. What Bob didn't realize was that when you do get that pill wet, it's a one and done application. You've used it, congratulations, the pill worked, you're still breathing, you're still standing up, now you have to get a new aqua pill for your mask. There are some people who take the pills out when they do their capsule training. Depending upon the type of ambient valve you have in there, it'll work or not work. There are some of the earlier ambient air valves that if you take the pill out and there's no pill in it at all, even if you've got it shut, water will get in there. So figure on wasting it. The pills cost 3 for $10. Frequently, I have a little bag of them in the glove box of my car. I don't right now. But I'll typically, if I know I'm going to an inboard race that I'm at, I'll usually have a couple packages with me, so if somebody has an emergency and needs one real quick, I can take care of it. And I don't even charge too much for it. But
how do you service them after you use them?
This unscrews.
it unscrews. It's the valve itself is a threaded cap. With a slot in the top, you take a nickel and you put it in the slot and you turn it to open it up. It then comes out and you just pop the new one in.
Dry it out.
Well, you don't really have to dry it out. I mean, there's not water in the valve per se. I mean, if there is, just shake it out. Make sure it's good and dry in there before you put your pill in. Wipe it out with a paper towel.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, John, you mentioned the check to make sure that your safety gear works, your air works. We all tend to think that'll never happen. You see the drivers upside down in the water. How often do you come up to a boat and find that there's been some type of malfunction with the safety gear?
It's not super common, but it's a couple of times a year. And it kind of depends on what you consider to be a malfunction. I've met drivers that said, they tried a different boat. This is where it clicked in my head. They were driving someone else's boat, and like, oh my God, that thing was so rough. I came away with bruises. And I'm like, bruises? He said, yeah, I got bruises on my shoulders. It's because they're getting bounced around. The straps are loose. So you get tossed out of the seat, and you hit the straps, and you fall back to the seat. The straps. It's like a marble and shoe box. Whereas if the straps are tight, yeah, you feel the impact, but you're not being bruised. And you're still a distance away from the outside edges of the boat, so that in an accident, you don't get moving at a velocity and then hit that boat. You stop with the boat when it hits the water. We have seen a few situations in the last couple of years where
Want to mix whites and colors in one load?
in the accident scenario, we don't know exactly precisely what the failure was, but we have seen air systems not working right. It's frequent to see a mask leak.
Shout color catcher. Fewer washes. Fewer
I think
worries.
those are the two main ones. We did find, it was 3 years ago in Spanaway, my drivers tend to walk around. I ask them every race, walk around, look for boats you haven't seen before, and inspect their hatches, open them, close them, look at the gear inside, see if anything strikes you, just familiarize yourself with the boats. You'll see them doing that right after our 9 o'clock morning meeting, but before they first heat. We had one set of divers come back to me and says, well, we found something interesting. And usually they just find a new latch or something. He says, well, the safety straps were installed upside down. I don't know how they did that, but they did, and they had just put the boat back together. That was the first race. Racing was out. They had stuck the straps in as they were rebuilding the cockpit. Didn't even put a driver in it. Brought it out to the race site and discovered, yeah, those are upside down. So they quickly fixed that before they took it out on the race course. But it's just things like that. If they'd hopped in the cockpit and checked, see how everything fits and feels before they took it out to the race site, we wouldn't get to crap about that.
Yeah, if I take my pony tanks to a dive shop, they'll fill them to 3,000 pounds. But I've had guys say, well, we really only like to put 2,500 pounds in it because if they sit in the sun, do you have a recommendation?
I would follow the tank manufacturer's recommendations.
Which is 3,000.
Yeah, and don't leave them out in the sun.
What I used to do is actually when I fill them and stuff, I put them in ice to keep them cool if you're filling them in hot temperatures and stuff like that. Because yeah, you're pumping in hot air, but you're not then compacting it and actually in hot climates when I pump tanks again, put them in a bucket of ice and pump up your tank at a race site or something like that. Makes it a lot cooler. You're not breathing hot air, not dry air.
Usually just sitting in the shade. Usually that's
I also
fine.
used to pop a piece of gum in the driver's mouth when they're coming off the water, which is sucking the dry air.
That
Something on the subject of tanks, as long as we're talking about SRP in the past, has sold tanks We don't carry them now. There's a couple of reasons why, and I wanted to explain that. One reason why is costs on aluminum fluctuates real wildly. So, we can buy a tank and then have the value of it change a whole lot. So we end up, depending upon how long the tank sits there, risking losing a lot of money on inventory as such. The other problem we found was that when we were selling tanks and people were buying complete systems of tanks that lived out of the area, and it was going back east to Canada or something like that, people were having trouble getting them filled at their local dive shops because they didn't have their sticker on them. So for that reason, we encourage people to find their own source for tanks, whether it's a local dive shop where you can build up a relationship and get to know people. Obviously, Region 10 Rescue has an air compressor and is gracious enough to take care of filling a lot of tanks for people, but that's not always going to be the case. So, have a good plan B, and maybe that's how you do it, is finding a local source for getting your tank from.
Yeah, on that topic, please be aware that compressor doesn't actually belong to our group. It belongs to Bob Allison. And he brings it to races when he comes to races. But he doesn't always come to all our races.
So
And
don't
that's
rely
Region
on
10 Rescue, not Region 10. Region
Correct.
10 does not own that. Region 10 Rescue does.
Region 10 Rescue does not own that either. Bob
don't.
Allison owns that personally.
Okay, we do not. Region 10 doesn't own that.
Correct.
And also, Bob Allison checks those tanks before he fills them to make sure they're within cert.
Yes.
And I think that's once every 5 years is hydro and an annual inspection.
Yes. And we want to see a visual on it. Just because we're filling them at the race site does not mean we're going to let you cheat on that, because it's a safety thing. And we don't have a blast enclosure at the race site to stick these things in. So yeah, we do need your visual and your hydro to be current before we fill those. And again, Bob's not coming to the race. Bob's not going to bring a compressor. Bob's going to be in a lot fewer races this year. He's already told me that. So just be aware. If anybody wants to donate a dive compressor to us, we'll be more than happy to bring it to almost every
How
race.
much are they?
They're about $4 grand.
Well, then maybe you better make me a grant proposal to the Historical Society.
That's been discussed, and we might very well just do that.
Does the pump itself or the machine be certified on a regular basis as well?
It needs to be serviced occasionally, but no, actually, which is interesting enough.
They usually check them when they service them because they are required to be pumping a specific grade of air into those tanks through the filtration that they have.
Yeah, there's a main filter on it, and there's a coarse filter on the end of the hose. But no, they don't. It doesn't require any certification, which is interesting. Any other questions?